peace that surpasses all understanding. I'm going to hold on to that one, I think. Been a while, and feeling a little awkward about coming back on and doing shares. Been away from it. I think the last time I shared was in September, so I don't know, 5 months ago. Honestly, just not having any... it's not that I didn't feel like I wasn't having experiences worthy of sharing, but the experiences were so powerful that I didn't have words for them. Nothing that made sense, at least in my own process, where it was where I felt compelled or guided to share. But I, and I kind of been scrolling back through some of my, some of my older videos have been popping up, and looking at them with different eyes, and seeing things differently than I did then. Even in the moment of passion, feeling very passionate about something, and looking at it now, and not that it was any less valid, just my perception about it has changed, or there's a deeper understanding of my perception about a certain subject matter. Long story short, though, a year ago, this past November, so a year and 2 months ago, I had an experience, and much like, I was in AA for a while. I've been sober since 2001, relapsed in 2006, been sober ever since, blah, blah, blah. But they in that program, in that 12-step program, they recommend you wait a year before you open your mouth. And there's times when I can see the value in that, But the experiences that I've had over this past year and a couple of months, needless to say, it's been profound. A lot of very uplifting stuff, and buttloads of really dense stuff. And what I mean by dense stuff is self-awareness. Who am I? Who am I really? I'm not an employee. I'm not a husband. I'm not a son. I'm not a brother. Who am I without all these other labels? What's left? I'm not a homeowner. I'm not spiritual. I'm not evil. What am I after all of these things have been said and done? What am I left with? And what I've experienced over this past year-ish is a tearing away, ripping away, shedding, doors opening, veils being lifted, and it all leads back to what's the fucking point? What's the point of this? And who are you, Scott? Who are you? Who are you, really? What are you? And I got answers to a lot of that, and I some of the answers were difficult to incorporate. Some of the answers were quite elating. There was a lot of elation. But who am I? And the answer to that is I am. I think many of us who are in this community, I am a fractal of the God particle. I'm part of that, and in that truest being, there is divinity that resides within me, that I am, and to incorporate that every day deeper and deeper, on a deeper level, on a daily basis, bringing that into my life. Meditation, prayer, ceremony. These are all outward things, but through my actions, through my words, my manner, and being able to sit quietly alone and be completely okay with that, and to be surrounded by density, be surrounded by people who are maybe caught or stuck in the goo, and be totally okay with that too. To be more like, not that I'm not engaging, but to see things without judging them, to witness and experience things without offering my opinion about them, or just to be an observer, and to learn, to learn from what I'm witnessing. And it was really interesting, that divinity that I'm referring to. My experience a year ago in November, I was in the shower. Side note real quick here, water is water is a very important thing. There's symbolism there, but there's also very tangible energetic exchange with water and fluid. I truly believe that with all my heart. And I was taking a shower, and I'd been going through a lot of the deeps, what I would call the deeps, and having what I would refer to as a nervous breakdown. What's it all for? And in a moment of clarity, taking that shower, there was a divine feminine presence, very, very powerful, powerful yet gentle, strong yet tender. The paradoxes were just abundant. But the physical sensation that I felt in that moment, you've been, all right, Scott, you've been asking, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? What's it all for? What's it all for? I'm gonna tell you what it's all for. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna give you a little taste, and I'm gonna kind of give you an idea of who you really are. And in that moment, in the shower, I felt what I can only describe as a very peaceful, aligned, fulfilling beam of light passed through me. And there was a very, very feminine essence to it. And by feminine, I don't mean sexual, but a feminine essence to it. All the pure golden, wonderful, like nurturing, strong, intuitive, and I almost feel like I'm not giving it the proper respect by putting these words to it. Some things are as yet undefinable by language, and suffice to say that experience, I was just like, wait a minute, I'm both. There was a sense of a fulfillment, not a completion. Completion suggests game over, we're done. No. But there was a sense of fulfillment. There was a sense of union, I think would be another appropriate word to use. And it was very powerful, very powerful. And in seeing that, it was the motivation and the prompt that I needed, the push that I needed to go deeper. I'm looking in all the wrong places for what can only be found within. I was seeking everything externally. People, places, and things, organizations, churches, doctors, gurus, whatever. I'm searching, and that lends back to whatever I find. I am not responsible for whatever I find. If I find it outwardly, if that doesn't work, I can, hey, jog on. I'm not responsible for that. But what I find inside, that is me. That I am responsible for that. And in the past year, lots of ups and downs. Lots of ups and downs. I'm at my breakfast bar, but right there on the floor, right next to my couch, I'm not going to mess with my device because it screws it up. But right there on that floor, I remember shortly after that experience, it was within that day or the following day, I was on that floor in the fetal position, crying. And crying is an understatement. I had fluids coming out of every orifice. Yes, everyone. It was powerful. It was powerful. And but since then, I went pretty deep, and I went over the top. I didn't know what to look for, where to look for it. I needed some affirmations about what I was experiencing because I didn't believe it. It was so powerful. It was unbelievable. And I found myself, and you're gonna do you, and I'm not gonna. I would simply suggest that you're mindful, because I went into a lot of very deep, dark, what I would call rabbit holes, and what I'm learning is to trust my senses a lot more. How does that make me feel? Whatever it is, that person, that place, that thing, this environment, there's energy all around us all the time. And how does that make me feel? Am I in the right place right now? Should I be here for an experience? Okay? And I'm telling you that a lot of these rabbit holes that I went down, there's no regret about doing it because it taught me the lesson. It was a learning of what I want in my life, what I desire, what the vision that I have for my life, and the peace and love and joy and freedom that I would like to see for everybody else. And a lot of these rabbit holes were very dark and very dense, and it shed a lot of light on many of the things that I was only suspicious about. But it left me with a lingering sense, constant lingering sense of fear. I was in fear, and it showed me the level of my fear. And fear, as far as I'm concerned, has no genuine place in my life anymore, in my experience. Love, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't mean that again, because there are so many times when the subtleties of language, when someone says love, they think of romance and sex and relationships and being in love. And I'm talking about the state of love, loving unconditionally. Love is painful, man. Love is painful. But it's also, that's something I've learned to embrace a great deal more. That, oh my goodness, what is the, I can't remember who it was, Khalil Gibran or Rumi but to understand that the depth of your pain becomes the height of your joy, and where love falls into that, when there's an absence of fear, once fear is removed, and you can experience love, genuine love, on that level, and the depth of your pain becomes the height of your joy. In the paradox, or the two opposing forces kind of come together, and you see just how fucking beautiful things could be or are. And going back to my original experience, how beautiful things could be or are, and seeing something within myself that has been virtually absent throughout my entire existence, throughout my entire life, in these past 53 years. And I've had those scratchings, those gnawings, those taps on the shoulder, those moments of clarity, but they always seem to be squashed by an outside idea of, and this was, for me at least, you're a slave, you eat, you sleep, you work, you reproduce. That was like the general attitude. And having come to where I'm at now, and seeing a different perspective about just how distorted that thinking is, and seeing things through different eyes, and I like this better, even with the pain that's involved in it, or the discomfort, or the density, or whatever. I would much rather be on this road than feeling like I was, in that, and not even realizing it, the level of fear that we're dominated by on a daily basis. Just to cover a few things, I'm sober. Yeah, I'm a vegan. Maybe a bit of a hippie, beach bum. And the veganism thing came along through an experience within the past, since almost a full year vegan now. But that was the way I came to that conclusion. Was I had an experience. I have a dog, great dog, and had an experience with my dog that made me look at my dog with definitely new eyes about just how perceptive and what's the word I'm looking for? Dogs are sentient beings. They think and they feel, and he was definitely tuned into me, and I was like, oh my God, he was like aware of me. Anyway, that was the beginnings of my experience with veganism. On a side note there too, just for what it's worth, a year ago plus, whatever, prior to be, changing my diet. And changing my diet for spiritual reasons. It really had less to do with the physical aspect of it, and more to do with having a different perception about animals, eating animals, and the trauma that an animal goes through being slaughtered. And I don't want to participate with that. It's not something I feel in alignment with. But on a physical note, when I began this a year and a couple of months ago, I was weighing somewhere around 240 pounds. And the way anyway, about 240 pounds, and here we are a year later, and down to 198. And I attribute a great deal of that to the change in my diet, mostly plant-based. A lot of vegetables, some rice and pasta. Stay away from eggs and cheese and whatever. It's a choice. Doesn't resonate with everybody, resonates with me, and that's all that counts in my life. But let's wrap it up, because I'm going to wrap it up. The experience that I had more recently, and within the last month, within the last 2 weeks, had a very profound experience, and it all leads back to divine masculine and divine feminine. And the fulfillment or the union of those two energies that I believe exist within us all. And shall we say it was a dream or a vision, a moment of clarity, whatever makes most sense to you. To me, I was fully conscious when I had this moment of clarity. I wasn't asleep. I wasn't having a dream. But there was a progression or a graduation of understanding that within me, I've gone from shall we say, an ignorance to an awareness that this does exist. From ignorance to awareness, and I don't mean ignorance like stupidity, ignorance in the sense that I don't know. I didn't know I was ignorant. Coming into some level of awareness about what divine masculine, divine feminine means, and experiencing a level of unity or fulfillment of that within myself. And then a perception of what would happen if you took a man who was myself, referring to myself, if you took a man who was experiencing or in that state of union with himself, and there was a female who was in that same union. And I'm not talking about sex in the sense that we've been programmed to understand what sex is, but what could two people, a male and a female, in their unity, in their fulfillment, in their wholeness, create? And I'm not talking about a baby or reproducing. I'm talking about what could they create? What kind of energy could they create? That thought process graduated into something even greater. Now, going back to what I believe I said earlier about we are divine fractals of that God spark, right? And I do believe that. We have a soul, for lack of a better word. We have that energy within us, eternal, infinite. So, ignorance to awareness, fulfillment and union, creating, taking the two types of energies, bringing them together and creating something divine, and then beyond that, realizing that we are self-creators. And that led my thought process to the spark of creation and how was that accomplished. And if we are divine creators and the universe created itself, i.e. God, whatever makes sense to you around that, how was that accomplished with divine creators? You got to crawl before you can walk. You got to walk before you can run. And the table is open for new information, but this is where I'm kind of at right now. In a year from now, it'd be very interesting to see where I'm at in a year from now with all this information and how it's evolved. It's nice to check back in and to be back. Whether I share again anytime soon, I don't know. But I am grateful to be here. I'm grateful that you're here. And I appreciate the people that are in my life for whatever reason. For whatever reason. And I'm glad you're here. Peace that surpasses all understanding. And if something resonates with you, please feel free to leave a comment. I'm intrigued by this journey, and it definitely has my attention. Peace that surpasses all understanding. Have a great day wherever you are in the world, and thank you for watching.